Hello and welcome back to 3ds Maths. So today we're going to have a little look at Tyflow and some of the basic things that it can do. So to start off, we're going to go to your standard Tyflow and click and drag that anywhere on the board. You can have it anywhere because we're then going to go over here to helpers, come down into Tyflow and bring in a Ty icon. So we're going to bring in the Ty icon, which is going to be where our workspace is. To open Tyflow, we're going to click on this little icon, into modifiers, Tyflow, open editor. So that'll bring up this editor. So this is the place where we do all of the work for Tyflow. So I'm going to drag it across and make it a little bit smaller, so that way we can see what's happening over here. So Tyflow is like the old particle system, but a bit reworked, so you can have multiple different Tyflows running, and you can do a little bit more with it. So we're going to start with a birth. Most things will start with a birth, and when we change the keyframes, you'll see that a little bit more happens. So I'm just going to have it in the middle so we can see that something is happening throughout the whole event. To add a position, so we're going to go across and find position icon. Each little icon tells you some description, so when you go between it, it sort of tells you what it does. For now, we're going to drag and drop that above the display. So you want to make sure you can put everything above display so it'll show. Next thing we're going to bring is a shape, so we can give some idea to what we're doing. So we're going to come across, find shape, and drag that in. We'll then come down and we're going to have some 3Ds, so we might go with spheres. So there's many spheres on here. We're going to just stick with a mid-res sphere for now, and we're then going to come back into our display and change the type to geometry. That'll make sure that it shows in 3D when we start actually getting some movement happening. So with this position, we're going to have to pick a position. So it automatically sticks with the Tyflow icon. As we can see, if we hover over that, it lights up the little circle in the middle. We're wanting it to come out of this surface here. So we're going to go to the icon, pick and select that one. Now we can see that a couple more select and they populate. We're then going to come back into shape, and we're going to scale them a little bit so they're a little bit bigger. So you can scale these until you're sort of happy with the size, so we can now see them on the board. You can have a variation as well, so you can increase that to have more variation in size, decrease to be the same. So we've got a little bit of variation, so we get some big ones, some small ones. We might up that a little bit more to see the difference. We now have the particles being born, but they're all on the surface. They don't have any speed, so we want to make them bounce up and down a little bit. So we're going to come back down to here and find speed. There we go. I'm going to put that under the shape. So here we can now see that they come out of that surface a little bit, especially in the front view. We're also going to make it that they bounce just up, so rather than going out from that, they're going to just go up. So we need to add this by changing the direction. So rather than random 3D, we're going to go along icon arrow. So at the moment, it doesn't look like there's much happening, and that's because it is down. We're going to click reverse, and then things will go up when we add some divergence and some speed to it. We're going to change the magnitude to have that sitting up a little bit. That way they'll bounce up, and we are going to be doing that by value. So the next thing, we're going to bring in some speed. So we're going to find speed and drag that above the shape. Here we can see that it sort of just goes randomly, all in 3D. We're then going to change the direction to a long point arrow. where they're going to come down and pick this arrow. It'll then show what it is. As we can see, they all go down. So we don't really want them to go down, so we're going to click reverse. I will then see them go up. We're now going to do something a little bit more fun, so they might all bounce in the air and then come down and break. So we'll get into that now. So we're going to go across and find Physics X shape, and we're going to put that below the shape here. So at the moment you can see that they don't really want to jump off of the ground. That's because in the speed our magnitude is really low. So we can increase that magnitude to how high we might want them to jump. So if we put more, around 13 meters, we can see that they come up on our screen nicely there. We might also change the divergence a little bit, and that way they shoot in a bit more random directions rather than just all the same. The next thing we're wanting is the actual braking, so we're going to go across and find Farnell fraction and put that just below the physics. Once that is in, we can see that they do start to break. Since we've got a lot happening in the frame, we're going to come back to the birth and change it to per frame. So we might change it to 1 per frame. So there we go, bouncing up in the air and coming down and breaking. One thing that we might want to add is just so they bounce more, so we're going to come down to the physics tape dynamics and restitution. So restitution, it's the amount of bounce. Might drag that up a little bit. So if we zoom in, we can see that they bounce a little bit more on impact. And so we're now going to add a couple lights. So we're going to go into our create, the light globe, have it as photometric, and we're going to go target light. We will just click yes, click, and just drag that over the tool. We can do that multiple times to add a couple different target lights in our scene. We're now coming into the modifier panel, and we are going to change the light type from sphere to spotlight, and we can do that with all 3 of them. We can now add some materials as well, so coming into the materials editor, find out what you might want to use. So I might be looking at a PBR. We'll go with a gloss. So our base colour, might choose a fairly vibrant blue. Saturate that, bring it down a little bit. Cool. You can give it some gloss, so it might look like some glass breaking. Emission, we're going to leave displacement okay, glossiness okay. We're then going to apply that to the Tyflow. So come over here, select the Tyflow, and you can click and drag that across. So we can now see that our colour has attached. We can then come in to render that. So open the render setup. I'm using Arnold. Over here we can save the file. Click save. I will override that one. and we are going to do the range from 1 to 100 frames. So I've got 100 frames down there. We're going to output all of them. We're going to make sure it's in the perspective view, and we're doing a high resolution output. We're then going to click render, and that'll go through and render each of the frames. While that is outputting, we're going to open Photoshop, and you can go to my previous tutorials on creating an animation to be able to do that and watch them. And there we have it, the final outcome. Thank you for watching.